Hey everyone, it's November 30th, and that means that if today's your birthday, you share with serial killer Robin Gecht, leader of the Chicago Ripper crew who murdered at least 18 victims in the early 1980s, and that is him right over there. Born in 1953, Gecht grew up in the Chicago area and as a teen worked for notorious serial killer John Wayne Gacy. There's no evidence that he helped or was even aware of those murders, but he did follow in his footsteps. He was married and had 3 children, but was obsessed with stories of Satanism and built his attic into what he called the Satanic Chapel. It consisted of an altar draped in red cloth with red and black crosses painted on the walls, with the only light source being numerous candles. He was interested in Satanism as a child and began sharing that obsession with friends who came to his home to participate in rituals after his wife left to work the night shift. His friends were all about a decade younger than Gecht and were consuming copious amounts of drugs and alcohol and were thought of as not being very bright. One later tested with an IQ of just 75. They adopted the name the Ripper Crew when they began abducting women in 1981. The crew believed that Gecht had the power to control their minds and bodies, and that once under his spell, they were powerless to resist participating in his sick rituals, which now involved killing women in his attic. While many of their victims were prostitutes, every woman in Chicago was at risk, and there were even suspects in the disappearance of the wife of a member of the Chicago Cubs. The bodies of these women turned up strewn throughout the area, naked, mutilated, and showing signs of brutal abuse throughout 1981 and 1982. The biggest commonality was that their breasts were either bitten off or cut off, a piece of information the police kept a secret at the time to use it in interrogations. Gecht later claimed that being obsessed with breasts ran in his family, saying, "It is a thing with my entire family, going back, as I'm told, to great-grandfather. Each of us men have married large breast women. My ex-wife is a 39D, and yes, she was very satisfying to me." The crew would use piano wire to remove them, and he kept them in a trophy box, which when found contained parts of 15 different women. They would take turns pleasuring themselves with the severed appendages, then cut off pieces of them to eat. His attic was the scene of nearly all of their murders, and they were only caught when they dumped the body of one victim who amazingly survived being abused, mutilated, and stabbed. She was able to provide details about her attackers to investigators who rounded up the crew, which consisted of Gecht and his 3 friends. Because his accomplices refused to testify and physical evidence couldn't tie Gecht himself to the 18 murders, he was only convicted of attempted murder for the victim who survived, while his crew faced more severe charges. The 3 disciples confessed to the murders and were convicted, with one member executed in 1999, one serving a life sentence, and one released on parole in 2019 after spending nearly 37 years behind bars. Gecht was sentenced to 120 years in prison and will first be eligible for parole in 2042 when he is 89 years old. As far as I can tell, he still proclaims his innocence, but I tend to agree with the jury. Interestingly, Gecht's son was convicted of a gang-related murder in 2000 and is serving 45 years in prison and will be eligible for parole in 2044, so they may have a happy reunion after all. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone whose birthday it is today, send them this video so they can find out all about their birthday twin. And to Robin Gecht, I say, happy birthday, you bastard.